The Pacers beat themselves on Sunday. They lose to their opponent, the 76ers, 118-114 in overtime, and rebounding and turnovers are why they beat themselves. They've got to be better at that. They've got to get their pace back. They've got to be the Pacers again. We have so much to discuss on today's Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, y'all? Happy Monday. Hope you had a great weekend, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes, and today we have a lot to get to when it comes to Pacers-Sixers, an overtime loss for the Pacers. Man, oh man, did they beat themselves. They were up 5 late in this one. They shot it better from 3. At times, I thought, showed more of their identity and teeth from last year, even though they still, of course, lost the game for other reasons that we will get to. Tyrese Haliburton got his scoring going, although the rest of his game still very unpolished, and not enough from the rest of the Pacers on the whole, even though one player I think played particularly very well that I would like to talk about. At the end of this one, the Pacers now 1-2. They needed this one against a banged-up Sixers team. Home opener juice in the building, and they fall flat on their face. Not good. Not a good sports weekend unless I got my IU football jersey on. You're a fan of the Hoosiers. Love that. They're playing well. No one else is. Let's talk about this game. And we have to talk about how I think the Pacers beat themselves. And I think anybody who watched this game should feel the same way. Rick Carlisle walks into the press room. He's going to give his opening statement, and he starts with the exact perfect line to me. He said, you guys are going to ask a lot of questions, and the answer to almost all of them is going to be rebounding and turnovers, because the anticipation, and he is right to say this, is going to be that we're going to ask what went wrong in the final minute, what went wrong in the overtime period, why couldn't you guys put this team away when you shot so well from the field, right? All sorts of stuff like that. Why was the offense not connected enough? Why was the defense not at the level needed to be against a team missing its best 2 players in Paul George and Joel Embiid? And the answer to all of them in some form is turnovers and rebounding. Let's start with rebounding. This killed the Pacers. Like, possessions are everything. And the Pacers in this game outshot the Sixers by 3.5% from the field. That's great. The Pacers made 2 more threes on 10 fewer attempts. They shot 14.5% better from the three-point line. The Pacers made 23 free throws. That is the same number as the Sixers. They had 3 more attempts to do it. But either way, you think about all those things I just said, same free throws, better percentage, more threes. That sounds awesome. They should be winning that kind of game. And yet, they lose because they took 84 shots and more free throws. I remind you, they took 84 shots and more free throws. The Sixers took 98 shots in this game. That is an almost insurmountable gap. Though a bad night for an NBA team is shooting 40%. 14 more shots is still like 8 to 10 points on a bad night. That's a huge advantage to have to overcome, and it wasn't enough for the Pacers to shoot 40% from deep to overcome it, right? That is a huge gap. So why did the Sixers have all these extra possessions? It goes back to the 2 things we just said, but really but only one of them matters more, and that's the one I want to start with, which is rebounding. The 76ers had 20 rebounds. Offensive rebounds. Let me be clear. They had 20 offensive rebounds. The Pacers had 37 rebounds in total. I saw Will Ferrell at the game, who's been on the show a couple times recently, and he tweeted at one point during the game. I can't remember the exact totals, but I believe it was Sixers offensive rebounds 13, Pacers total rebounds like 16 or 17. Like, they were single-handedly keeping up. Now, the guy you'd expect was very good. Drummond had 17 rebounds in this game. Myles Turner has had trouble with Drummond forever, right? He's got to be better in these moments. 4 rebounds for Turner in this game. But Drummond wasn't even the sole leader in offensive rebounds on the Sixers. Obviously, again, there will be finger pointing at Turner. He's never been a good rebounder. He has never been a good rebounder against Drummond. He was not in this game. That's bad, obviously. 4 for Caleb Martin, 3 for Kelly Oubre Jr., 5 for Gershon Yabusele, who's like 6'7", 6'8". It was Turner, and it was everyone. The whole Pacers team stunk on the glass. They have got to be better. If they get not from 20 to 15, that's still a bad night, but 5 fewer offensive rebounds, they win this game easily against a hobbled team. And Maxey sucked in the first half, and he was awesome by the end of the game, but he sucked in the first half, right? That would have been enough to win, but they couldn't even do that. That killed them. Defensive rebounding, 30-34. Close enough. You take that, especially on a night when the other team shoots a lot more shots. Maybe not, but they did okay to keep up there. They made enough shots and got enough offensive rebounds to keep the Sixers kind of off the defensive glass, and they still got totally destroyed in the rebounding department. That killed them. That absolutely killed them. Second chance points in this NBA basketball game, 31-19. 31 is unreal. And that is what the Philadelphia 76ers had in this game. That is way number one that the Pacers beat themselves. And we have still a lot to talk about with crunch time and overtime. The other way is turnovers. Look, they didn't actually lose a turnover battle, but they still had 19. It was 19-19. That's even. That came out in the wash. But if they had 15, they win. If they had 17, they win, right? It was, and so many of them were late. 6 from Turner, 3 from Haliburton, 2 from a bunch of guys. It just wasn't there. And a lot of them were ball handling turnovers, which was really strange. It wasn't like, oh, that pass made sense, he just missed it. Or less harmful ones. Live ball handling turnovers. Probably the worst kind. In fact, no, probably. Certainly the worst kind of turnovers. Points off turnovers in this game. Excuse me, I got something wrong a second ago. Second chance points, Philly had 25 and the Pacers had 11. Points off turnovers is where Philly had 31. I was looking at the wrong number. That's still crazy. That's 56 points for the Sixers off of the Pacers shooting themselves in the foot. That is almost half of their points. That is like 2 points away from half, 3 to be exact. So that sums up how the Pacers lost this game. They actually looked like this. I'll get to the positives way later. Like, they did some stuff better. They looked more Pacers-y to me. Haliburton scored over 20 points. He shot better from 3. This is awesome. This could have been a very nice, smiley, hey, look, they didn't play very well, but they got on track kind of show. Instead, no. Bad. Beat themselves. Couldn't do it. But thankfully, they played bad, and they're playing a Sixers team that's so banged up they can still win. They figure it out late. They get up 5 in the final minute. How about some more catastrophe for the Pacers in this game? I mean, they weren't even playing that well in the fourth quarter. The starters, to their credit, closed the game very well. Tied at 97 with 3 minutes to go. Tied at 95 with 4 minutes to go, right? Lots of chances for the Pacers to not do well in this game. Nesmith was awesome late. Good rebounding, good defense, made 2 clutch free throws, just made a bunch of plays. He was really sensational to help the Pacers get ahead by 3. And that lasted until the minute 33 mark to go when they scored. They were up 5 after a very crafty little bank shot from Andrew Nembhard. I thought they won at that point. They needed one more stop or one more bucket to win. Let's talk about the next 5 possessions of the game. First, Kelly Oubre scores. Normal shot. Okay, they didn't get a stop, whatever. Tyrese Haliburton drives into the lane, goes for a layup. It's kind of blocked. It's definitely a steal. It was low in the shot. It got registered as a block by Eric Gordon. I would call it a steal. That's turnover number 1. 15 seconds into a 24-second play, which is fine, but maybe a little longer would be better. On the other end, Maxey draws a foul, as he did a lot. That game, he made both free throws. 11 seconds later, Andrew Nembhard turnover. Can't have that. And Andre Drummond gets a steal. Caleb Martin runs out, and the Sixers are ahead. That quick. It took the Pacers 61 seconds to go from up 5 to losing with 2 turnovers. It was so fast. And then they had a chance. The Pacers still. They can go up 1. They call timeout. Tyrese Haliburton turns it over again. Another turnover. So really it was 3. It got registered as 2, whatever. And they get bailed out. Maxey makes 2 free throws. They have to foul. And Haliburton hits a miracle 3. Somehow they get it to OT, right? A miracle that they got it to overtime. They really, once again, beat themselves in the final minutes of this game. In overtime, tied at 110 after 1 minute and 40 seconds, and then a missed free throw by Turner. They could have tied it there, and they had so many chances. And then they get another miracle. Missed free throws from Kelly Oubre. Missed free throws from Tyrese Maxey. And they foul Haliburton for some reason with 5 seconds to go. Pacers down 2. Chance to tie it again. Tyrese Haliburton at the line. Career 87% free throw shooter. I'm calling that off the top of my head. I'm going to look it up while I'm talking. I should have had that up already. Guy you won at the line, 86%. I'm so sorry. Guy you won at the line, missed. Missed the first one. The groan in the building was so loud. And he missed the second one on purpose. I'm not going to rip his percentage for that. But that just killed them. So Moments that mattered. Chance to tie in overtime. Missed free throw. Chances to win late. They needed one basket or one stop. They got no stops and had 3 turnovers. In the overtime, they never led. They tied it up a few times. They just couldn't get the timely play. They beat themselves. A game they needed to win. Their schedule to start the season is hard. It's hard. I tweeted this before, and everybody clowned me. I said their first 5 games are hard. They play good opponents. They're on the road. And everybody's like, what? That doesn't look that hard. It's hard. It is, I promise. And then their first 13 games are probably the hardest in the NBA, or among them. Any win that they can get, they need to be getting. But they are not playing well enough to be beating themselves. Just cannot happen. And it did. And the Pacers are now 1-2, and they have no one to blame but themselves. This wasn't, I guess shooting 3 for 30 from deep is blaming yourself. But like in that game, if they shoot 1% below league average from 3, they win. They literally win. That's how bad they shot against the Knicks. They beat the Pistons, right? They beat themselves. They should be 2-1. They should have won this game. They are better than the roster that the Sixers put out, but they didn't have the effort on the glass. They didn't have enough consistency taking care of the ball. Their defense wasn't good enough, and once Tyrese Maxey got going, they just couldn't get enough successes in a row. They needed to win it, and they didn't. They have been the bounce-back Pacers. Last year, every time they had some crummy happen, they'd come back and win. They got smoked by the Knicks and did not win their next game. Tonight will be very telling against Orlando. That was not a good Pacers performance. So much more to get to from this game. Haliburton's performance, the Pacers playing Pacers-y, good stuff, bad stuff. I have way more takeaways. We have so much more to get to before we get to any of it, though. We need to talk about the great people over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action, Colts, with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, if you jump on over to FanDuel and you're a new customer, you can bet $5 and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if you win. Bet 5, win $150. How about that? That is on the FanDuel Sportsbook app, which gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. You get that hunch. It's the middle of the game. You go, ooh, I feel it. I think I know what's coming. You can check out the latest stats from whatever you're watching. You can view live play-by-play, what's going on, see it, and so much more right on the same page where you'd place that bet. Act on your hunch so you can be informed about the timing and all the information you need to act on your hunch and get a win. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 of bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. We're back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. Your second listen, Locked On Sixers. I saw host Keith Pompey at the game. New host also, Kayla Santiago over there. They're going to crush it, talking about the Sixers' first win of the season. And Tyrese Maxey going ham. 45 points. Yikes. Locked On Hoosiers exists too. I'm going to plug that while I wear the football jersey that I never get to wear. I've had this for forever. Too much shame in my life. Not today. The Pacers did not feel very good about how they're playing. Something I've been asking a lot about at recent games, and by recent games, I mean on Sunday, was the pace. The pace, right? And I don't want to dig into this too much because so much can be fluky in a 3-game sample, right? I won't get into like big picture stats, probably till 10 games in. And I would advise anyone not to overreact to how the Pacers are playing until they've played 10 games. Yes, they have not looked good. I'm not going to dispute that or tell you how to think. But it's been too short of a sample to feel anything. They had plenty of crummy 3-game stretches last year and every year. But I will say this. How they are playing is very odd. 26th in pace. 26th. That was their thing last year, right? That's what made them so crazy hard to guard. They were second in pace last year, 102.16. Shout out to the Wizards for being even faster. They just had no efficiency at all. Their pace from last year would be slower in the rankings this year. The league is faster. It'd be 10th. To be 11th. They're 26th. So even compared to other teams, they're very slow. What is going on with that? Which is really interesting to me because the other thing the Pacers want to do, Rick Carlisle said this, they want to lead the league in passes. They want to move the ball. And the ball moves faster than anyone can move. It's a good way to get defenses in rotation and play with pace and play random. And that's all great. And entering this game, they passed quite a bit during the Sixers game. They were second in the league in passes, right? That part is happening. The effectiveness of those passes, the speed at which the Pacers are getting into what they want, the players making the passes, that is where things have felt different. I am not going to go ham on the stats besides those two because it's been 3 games. I will tell you what I feel watching them. Not playing as much through Haliburton. He's been a little more off the ball. And I asked him about this. right? I asked him and Carlisle about this after the game, actually, about the balance of who should be taking it up and who should be initiating. Because Siakam, first of all, Pascal Siakam's been awesome this season. It's going to go so unheralded because their start's been bad, but he's played exceptionally well. And Andrew Nembhard, those two have been initiating. 8 assists on 1 turnover for Andrew Nembhard in this game. 6 assists, 1 turnover for Siakam. Like, that's going okay. But what the Pacers are is like, hey, this dude last year was the best offensive player in the league for like 2 months or close to it, whatever. 2-3 months, however long that was. And for his career, has been a really good shooter and really good passer. And they aren't playing through him as much. Tyrese Haliburton had 2 assists in this game. Tyrese Haliburton did a lot of stuff better, right? I'll get to him. But that has been really interesting to me. And I kind of asked him about that. What's the balance of that on-off stuff? He just thinks it's making shots, right? For him, he thinks it'll come, and it did. He shot better in this game, but he doesn't think that the offensive balance has much to do with that in terms of what he's working through, in terms of when he's on the ball and off the ball. When I asked Rick Carlisle about it, I asked it pretty bad, so hand up here. But they're as they play through Drew and Pascal, he said he believes they have 3 playmakers in the starting 5. They trust the pass, they trust each other, and he wants them to play unpredictable and move the ball, no matter who is initiating. And he says that out loud, and I hear him, and I go, yeah, I get that. That sounds great. That sounds awesome. I still think Haliburton needs it more. And I get that takes – I just talked about 2 guys combined for 14 assists, 2 turnovers. That's good. That's good. But it's not the same. It's not the same zippiness. It's not the same boom, boom, boom. I pass, you drive, you cut, you screen. And it's random to us, but they all get it, and it clicks. And maybe they're just it's a new season. They're going to take on new life as the 10th fastest team. But it helps because Siakam's better or Nembhard's better or Mathurin's better or whatever. Like, it actually could work, whatever. It's been 3 games. But it doesn't feel the same. And that's been really, really fascinating to me from a Pacers perspective. So at 10 games, we'll really get nerdy on this, especially if this is still happening. But something that's happened in every game so far, and really was a part of this game, was their pace does not feel as threatening or as effective as last season. It's the Pacers. I thought about doing a whole joke where I call them the R's, like I take the word pace out of there. Name for this podcast to be really hard. It wouldn't sound funny after like the 10th one. So I cut it, but just know that you guys almost missed a banger joke. Speaking of Tyrese Haliburton, though. So this was better, right? Everybody was talking about got to get to the rim. He's not making threes. In this game, he was 4 for 9 on threes. That's great. They need that, right? If he does that a couple of games in a row, he's going to look great. I believe now he is 5 for 25, so 25% from deep this season, which is still bad. But 4 for 9, he needs those. A couple more of those, percentage shoots right back up. This time, the problem was he was 4 for 9 on 2s, which is the thing I keep saying he's been doing well when he's slumping from 3 is making 2s. Okay, he made some in this game. He missed some others. That's got to be better. Floater was nice. I think he had 10 points in the first quarter, 2 free throws. Like, that's a great start. Here he comes. Nope, just kidding. Got a little ahead of myself there. So some improvement. I think that, like, here's the thing about what people have been saying about Haliburton that's been really odd to me. And Rick Carlisle said this before the game, and he's right. And what the question was about with Haliburton, Rick said, Ty would tell you he needs to get to the rim more. And he does. Tyrese Haliburton does. He took 1 2-pointer in New York. He took 7 of his 8 shots from deep. I agree with that, to be clear. He should get to the rim more. Getting into the paint is what the Pacers did well last year and something they need to get back to. Let me also say this. What made Tyrese Haliburton incredibly good, great, fringe MVP for that 3-minute period I already referenced today, was he could shoot like crazy. His first 2 years in the NBA, 40% from deep. That stretch of the first half of year 4. First 3 years in the league is 40% from deep, excuse me. First half of year 4, 45% from deep. And it's just totally gone. But it has been totally gone, I should say. And he getting that back is what gets him to being elite, right? He was 4 for 9 in this game, and he looked way better. The passing wasn't there and hasn't been there. It's been kind of shifted a little bit. But that's been really interesting to me, is how do they strike that balance? Buddy Hield always would talk about this when he was slumping from 3. He's got to shoot his way out of it. And that's hard. That sucks because it makes your team look bad when a good shooter is shooting and missing a lot. And maybe that's what it is for Tyrese Haliburton. But he shot through it today, and he went 4 for 9 from deep and had 22 points. But he missed 3 free throws, and he went 4 for 9 on 2, so it wasn't that efficient of a game. I think Tyrese Haliburton was better in this game. I also think the Pacers had moments where their pace was much better in this game. In the second half, they came out after Sixers makes, they were sprinting down the floor. They got a couple just like, here, Pascal Siakam, easy layup, right? Just from running hard. And so a couple things like this Haliburton game and those Pacers moments when you go, okay, the Pacers are in there. The team we saw last year that was really good is in there somewhere. It's not all firing right now. I think a lot of it is who brings it up and how they play and how they initiate plays. And a lot of it's Haliburton getting the click back, like his own clicking back. He said, I asked him, do you feel like yourself? He said, no. And getting that back is huge. 3 turnovers, 2 assists for Haliburton in this game. Under 50% on twos, 2 for 5 from the foul line. So good progress. They were playing faster in the second half. Haliburton made threes. Their offense was okay. They just didn't have a lot of shots because the Sixers got all the rebounds. They can't play in transition when that happens. On the bad side for Haliburton, not as good of a passer. Their offense hasn't been as zippy. He had too many turnovers. So some progress in the Pacers getting back to looking like the Pacers and some not progress. And some of that falls back to defense. They just couldn't guard enough. Maxey was going crazy. How are Caleb Martin and Kelly Oubre tearing them up this much? Even though both of them finished like about 12 for 34, they just got into the paint and made stuff happen. They were 1 for 9 from 3. You take those out, all of a sudden, they feel a little more threatening. Pacers just have to be better. They have to be better than this. It wasn't all bad. I know no one likes to hear positive stuff, which is why I waited 20 minutes to get to it. But some players had good games, significantly good games, stuff worth building off of. Obi Toppin, Aaron Nesmith, TJ McConnell, Siakam has been awesome all year. More to get to as we wrap up today's Locked On Pacers. Before we do any of that, we have to talk about the great folks over at Gametime, the best way to get tickets to the theater, comedy, music, sports, whatever you're trying to attend near you. They have their Gametime Picks feature, which is awesome. It cuts out the fluff, makes it easier to see your favorite teams play because it only shows you the incredible deals on great seats. They filtered out using their own filter to show you the best deals Gametime offers. But when you don't use it and you see everything available on there, you'll still see awesome stuff from Gametime. The views from your seat feature, they have super deals, they have curated deals, they have their lowest price guarantee, they have event cancellation protection, they have job loss protection. So many features that make it the best way to get tickets. They'll credit you 110% of the price difference if you find cheaper tickets in your same section or elsewhere. Doesn't get better than that. The Sea View feature spot on. I've used it before. Absolutely the best way to get tickets. There's no guesswork when you're using Gametime Picks, and that's what makes it amazing. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. We're back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen on this lovely Monday. Make your second listen. Let's see, Locked On Warriors, because Steph ankle injury Sunday night. Hated that. What else has been rocking in the NBA? The Celtics have been amazing. We're going to talk with John Krause for Wednesday's show. Locked On Celtics would be a good place to go. The Clippers look really good. Darren Vizier will tell you on Locked On Clippers. They're one good bad quarter away from 3-0, the LA Clippers. Okay, let's keep going on the Pacers here. Some good stuff happened in this game, I promise. The result's terrible. The Pacers don't really look like the Pacers, and yet some good stuff. Starters looked pretty good. Starters won their minutes, and the general starting lineup that had Ben Shepherd in for Aaron Nesmith also looked pretty good. Better connected play from the starters. That matters. They need that to click the whole time. Every starter in double figures in this game. That's a good deal. Not all of them were exceptional in terms of their scoring and efficiency, but together as a unit, thumbs up. They needed that to finally happen. There was a lot of mixing and matching in this game. I felt like Carlisle searching for answers, and not a lot of Isaiah Jackson because the Sixers are small unless they have Drummond out there, and not a lot of Jarris. He had a rough defensive mistake and never got back in there, which maybe he should have, but Ben Shepherd was tremendous, so maybe not. So some experimenting, but the starters being good was great. Pascal Siakam's been so good this season. So good. And I know it hasn't meant enough in terms of the results, and no one's going to look at 16, 6, and 6 and think that he's been awesome. But his shooting splits are pretty solid. His defense has been awesome, much better than last year so far. He was shutting down guys on drives during this game. He was plus 14, despite overlapping with a starting five that had a lot of guys in the minuses because of those mixing and matchings earlier. But Siakam was really good, and I think he's been their best player through 3 games and deserves more. And that 6 assist number is very impressive for him specifically. Nesmith would have probably been my lead for this episode had they won this game. Not because he was the best player by any means, but won his best game of the season, certainly. He had so many exceptional plays late. Free throws, threes, clutch rebounds, defensive sequences. It took him a while to get going, but he was sensational late when this game mattered. And I thought it was his best game of the season as well. This was definitely Obi Toppin's best game of the season. He had 15 points by sprinkling in a three and making some shots and mainly hitting 6 free throws. Obi Toppin was tough to guard for the Sixers. They don't have that height. After Drummond, their tallest available player is Yabusele. He's too slow. Their next tallest guy is like 6'7". Toppin either had a height advantage for an over-the-top pass, so he got fouled a lot, or he could just run around and be faster than his man. He was scoring very well. His defense, not particularly good. In fact, the bench's defense was a big negative in this game. They could not get enough stops at all, which against a Sixers group that should not have been hard to slow down was very concerning. Eric Gordon plus 17. Eric Gordon, 16th season, tearing up the Pacers in a lot of ways. Ben Shepherd was just awesome in this game. Drilled 2 threes, kept the ball moving, played good defense. I think 3 games in, caveats abound. I think we're going to have conversations about the rotation because of Ben Shepherd, because he just has to play. Especially if they're playing bad and they need to do everything they can to maximize their winning odds, he gives them the best chance to win, right? Like, I get the argument. I made it myself in the preseason about what you'd do with Jarris in that spot or whoever else. He took some of Nesmith's minutes in this game. Ben Shepherd did. But he's just so 3-and-D players are so valuable. And if he's not messing up on defense and he's making shots and he's keeping the ball moving, it's just a very valuable player. I thought he was very good in the first half. I thought Nembhard was good in the first half. His shot went away. He went 3 for 11. The efficiency needs to be better from him, quite frankly. It wasn't very good in New York either. He was plus 11 in that first half. He had 4 assists and no turnovers and was shooting 40% at halftime. I thought he did a good job on Maxey in the first half, who only had 8 points at the time. So Shepherd and Nembhard, 6 out of 8 good halves there. Maxey really got going, and Nembhard's efficiency kind of waned in the second half. He almost hit the dagger after all of that. In fact, he hit what should have been the dagger until the Pacers just peed down their leg, for lack of a better term, for the last 90 seconds. I mean, they were terrible. They were completely terrible in that stretch. So a lot of good stuff. A lot of good stuff. They have yet to have a game where something or some player or some lineup is good the whole time. That's what's been so weird. This dates back to preseason to me. It's like, oh, the starters were good in this half, or this player was good for this stretch, or that player was good for that stretch. Siakam is the exception. Siakam, for most of the season, has been good. Most of the time, he's on the floor. And they need it. They need some stabilizing force. I thought when Rick Carlisle was talking before the game about changing the rotation, they would involve making sure one of the stars is out there all the time. And they did more of that in this game. And Siakam's been so good that I feel like they have to find a way to do that. Outside of him, you know, either the shooting comes and goes, the rebounding comes and goes, the passing comes and goes, the defense mostly goes, but sometimes comes and goes. You know, they haven't had a game, one, where they feel like the Pacers the whole time, but 2, where something or some player or some lineup is awesome for 48 minutes. That's what they need to show. Consistency. Someone needs to show consistency. Some groups do. Last year, every game from All-Star break onward, you know what's going to happen. The Pacers bench is going to be awesome. Their pace is going to be fantastic. They're going to shoot a lot of threes, and they're going to make a pretty good percentage of them, right? And it's going to happen all the time. And guess what? Opponents know it's coming, and they can't do anything about it, right? That was a good team. And none of that's there right now. So it's 3 games. People are not happy with how they're playing, and they shouldn't be. They're not playing very well. They are a good fourth quarter in Detroit away from 0-3. Now, they could also say they're a good overtime period away from 2-1. I get that. I get all that. But they've got to play better. They just have to. Their schedule's too hard for them to not be playing well or disconnected or not look like the team from last year that would have done better in these games. Orlando's tonight. Don't have time to fit them in today. They're tough. They were tough for the Pacers last year when I did the matchups in the East episode. Earlier in the offseason, I put the Magic in a hard group for the Pacers. And the Magic have been playing very well this year. That'd be a very good win for the Pacers. I don't expect it with the way they're playing. But we could be back tomorrow talking about a team that's 2-2 and is 1 overtime away from 3-1, even though they're not playing well. They need to surprise this week. New Orleans, it's small but tough. Dallas is good, although that's, I guess, next week. Boston is obviously exceptional. This game was winnable, and they blew it. They needed it. And we'll cover all of it right here on the Locked On Pacers podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed this not very fun topics-wise episode because the Pacers did not play well against the Sixers. You can find me on Twitter at Tony R. East, writing and podcasting about this team. All that stuff will be right there. This show is at Locked On Pacers, where you can see every show's topics and timestamps, and also the like shorts. I put up 1-minute clips from every episode on that feed now as well. Back tomorrow talking about whatever happens in Orlando and any other trends that keep popping up. Till then, everybody, thanks for listening. Have a wonderful day.